Good morning, Nigeria. It is another edition of Daybreak on Trust TV, your morning show, which is coming to you live from the studio of Trust TV here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. And of course, today is a new, a new week, and of course, a new year, the second day of the new year. And with me in the studio is
Sagir Ibrahim. Good morning, Mala Abdulaziz.
Good morning, Sagir, and of course it's good to have you for the show this morning.
Quite a chilly morning, and of course a breezy morning it
is. And the Hamatan is coming into January as expected, of course. And
today is the first working day of
the year. The first, well, not working day for you, actually. It's a public holiday.
Of course, it's a
that's the irony of we journalists, because true. We spend public holidays majority in the office. We even don't lose idea about when is public holiday and when is working day. But of course, today is the first Monday of the year, and we pray and hope that we all have the best of the year. We have, a very productive year, a year that is perhaps, of course, an election. Exactly. Of course, it is so many things. Election year, and there will be census and so many other things. We pray that all our viewers will have a splendid year and one that they will live to remember.
Indeed.
So let's have some of the headlines this morning. Obasanjo finally endorses Peter Obi.
2023, Wike urges Rivers residents to avoid voting for parties and candidates who dislike the state.
Also, NDLEA nabbed Brazil returnee with 105 parcels of cocaine hidden in suites.
And to details now. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has asked Nigerians to elect the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, ahead of elections in February. A letter personally signed by the former president on New Year's Day acknowledged that none of the presidential candidates was a saint. The elder statesman, however, argued that Peter Obi had an edge in terms of knowledge, discipline, and what he had to offer. He also noted that Obi would not get lost in governance as he had people who could pull his ears if and when necessary, in addition to a young and able running mate with a clean track record of achievement both in public and private life. Obasanjo described the last 7 years under President Muhammadu Buhari as eventful and stressful years for many Nigerians, during which the country had moved from frying pan to fire and from mountaintop to the valley. He therefore advised citizens to contribute to the new dispensation of liberation, restoration, and salvaging of Nigeria collectively.
Still on 2023, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has urged the people of the state to vote for any party candidate who do not mean well for the state and its development in the 2023 elections. The governor said that Rivers people must vote wisely for party candidates that love the state and are ready to advance and defend its interests. Governor Wike, who stated this in his 2023 New Year broadcast in Port Harcourt, said voters in the state must shun those candidates who will fail the state and neglect its aspirations. He declared that governing Rivers State had been a mixed bag of challenges, excitement, and fulfillment since 2015. The governor thanked God and good people of the Rivers State for their immeasurable support for his government from the beginning.
Also, Brazil returnee Agbasi Prosper Chuks was intercepted by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA on Christmas Day at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos with 105 parcels of cocaine concealed in suites. The suspect was arrested upon arriving from Sao Paulo, Brazil, after NDLEA officers conducted a second search of his bags and discovered the drugs hidden in packs of candies. A preliminary test also revealed that a plastic bottle of body lotion in Chuk's possession tested positive for cocaine, weighing a total of 472 grams. Chuks, who is married to a Brazilian woman and has a daughter, claimed to be in the clothing business in Brazil and intended to sell the drugs in Enugu, his home state. In the past week, NDLEA operatives also arrested 3 other traffickers and seized a total of 256 kilograms of illicit substances in Kwara, Kogi, and Niger states. The NDLEA CEO, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, retired, called on the agency's officers to increase their efforts against drug cartels in the new year, with the focus on both drug interdiction and demand reduction.
Well, that comes to the end of the news headlines at this hour, but of course we are moving on to more news packages. A member of the Daily Media Trust's Board of Directors, Alhaji Aminu Dangana, is stubborn as Matawallen Tudunwada. Dangana is among over 20 people in Tudunwada district of Nasarawa local government area of Kano State who were given various traditional titles for contributions to community's well-being. Trust TV's correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that the turbaning ceremony was held at the palace of the village head of Tudunwada amidst fanfare. The report.
These elder statesmen are among the respected elders of Tudunwada district in Kano. Their contributions to societal development is now even more challenging as they receive various traditional titles to further strengthen their commitment toward the development of their people. Malam Aminu Dangana is a member of the Media Trust Board of Directors, whose wonderful vision, sterling qualities, and excellent contributions to societal development now saw him as the first Matawallen Tudunwada, a traditional title he hopes will challenge him to do much more to his immediate community and the state in general.
We have been working elsewhere. We've been contributing our quota to so many communities, but it's felt that since we are back home now, we should come closer to our people so that we know their problems and we can maybe organize things to help them in uplifting their lives.
As celebration continue across Tudunwada area in Kano, these traditional title holders are promising to come up with a more sustainable development program that will ensure meaningful progress to further bring them even more closer to the grassroots.
Well, we are going to do our best to improve the situation in the town, to advise the district head, to advise him where necessary.
It is an opportunity given to us to move closer to the society. And I believe wholeheartedly, between myself, my God, and my consciousness, that we will continue to be identified with the yearning and aspiration of the people of the community, and will continue to relate very well with the community.
For me, it's a recognition from the community that one was brought into this life with. At least it's a recognition of the fact that you have been part and parcel of the community.
For the family and friends of Aminu Dangana in Tudunwada district, it's celebration time.
We are grateful to God for this position that Allah has given our husband, our father, their brother, uncle, and everyone else.
It's one of my happiest days in my life because our husband became Matawallen Tudunwada. We are very happy and we are proud of him. He's nice, kind, and he's a good leader.
Over the years, yes, people are being recognized. They have been recognized for their various contributions. But I think this is the first time that it is being done on a very large scale. So even the younger generations are beginning to see how the community works.
It shows that the community has appreciated what he has done over the years for them, and it's a well-deserved recognition, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to help him.
For the people of Tudunwada, the turbaning ceremony and the new traditional title holders are a welcome development that will ensure more unity and peaceful coexistence among the people, regardless of their differences. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
It always gladdens me to see such rich display of cultural heritage. Congratulations to our very own Aminu Dangana. Moving on now, as the new year 2023 rolls in, the Adamawa State Police Command has recounted its challenges, successes, and expectations. The command says it rounded off the previous year with over 909 arrests, but attributes the success to the support of other local security outfits and community leaders. Trust TV's Salis Lawan takes a look at the relationship between government, police, unconventional security groups and the community leaders in this report. Take a look.
For many Nigerians, 2022 was a year filled with challenges of insecurity in almost all parts of the country, economic constraint and unemployment. But for the Nigeria Police Force Adamawa Command, the 2022 was a successful one, except for the rate of moral decadence, which the command says has increased the level of drug abuse among the youth.
The year 2022 was a very marvelous. The command recorded last month over 909 suspects were apprehended for committing one offense and the other. And this thing all followed as a result of government being very, very supportive to the security agencies, particularly the police.
In addition to this, more needs to be done to strengthen the relationship between the conventional security agencies, local security outfit, and community leaders toward addressing security challenges in the state.
I'm getting cooperation as I want from them. No challenge, but me and any security agencies in Adamawa State, I'm working with them. It's not less than 40,000 vigilantes in Adamawa State. Because each local government, we have vigilante 1,000, 1,005, 800 like that, all over 21 local governments.
We used to have a mutual understanding and we are living in harmony. And then of recent, issues begin to spring up. And things cannot happen like that. There could be other hidden issues we don't understand. And then we cannot continue like this. We need to get ourselves involved and then see how we can table our issues together and then resolve them and then forge ahead.
The state's government support in the security management of Adamawa is described by stakeholders as satisfactory.
Recently, the command equally organized what we call one-day conference and retreat for senior police officers and electoral officers. And the governor keyed into these initiatives. He came down to the retreat. He joined the commissioner of police. In short, he even became one of the resource personnel. He preaches peace and supported the commands in the fight against crimes.
It's one thing to create an enabling environment, and then it's another for those that the enabling environment is created for them to utilize the opportunities. Then if things are going wrong, there could be some missing links, and those are the missing links we are trying to trace, and you can't trace the missing links as an individual.
Despite the seeming success of 2022, stakeholders are stressing the need for more harmonious relations between the government, community, and religious leaders for proper security management. From Yola, Silas Lawan, Trust TV News.
Well, as the saying goes, security is a business of all, and it's not only the business of security personnel themselves. So it's good that initiatives like this, extending hands across the line between conventional, police, like for example, and also community and all that. Yeah. Well, so moving on, the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, has counseled Nigerian mothers to adopt exclusive breastfeeding among other healthy practices to ensure proper care of their babies. The president's wife gave the advice while welcoming the FCT's 2023 New Year baby. Daniel Zagi has details of the report.
As the drums of celebrations rolled into the new year, the wife of the president leads an entourage to the maternity ward of the Kubwa General Hospital, located 31 kilometers from the city's center, to welcome the first baby of the year in the Federal Capital Territory. Baby Chimemeka Testimony Uchenna, born to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Victor Uchenna at 12:03 a.m. on New Year's Day, weighs 3.2 kg. Welcoming the baby among other children born on New Year's Day within the FCT is the representative of the president's wife and senior special assistant to the president on administration and women affairs, Dr. Rukaiya Gunrin. Presented gift items to the babies, including postnatal care products, nutritional supplies, and cash. The president's wife stressed the importance of pre- and postnatal care.
I would therefore like to urge all mothers across the country to take adequate care of their babies and ensure that they are all properly immunized as at when due. It is very important to mention that exclusive breastfeeding is important. I would like to encourage mothers strictly to do so during the first 6 months of delivery.
Organizers of the event, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, appreciated the President's wife for her motherly role and generosity in championing the cause of women and children in the country.
She believes that if you take care of the children, you are taking care of the nation. Not in the future, even at the moment. Because if you have healthy children, you have a healthy nation.
Children are a gift from God, and celebrating them in a wonderful way like this is actually a very special thing to all of us.
Parents of baby testimony are delighted with the gifts, but are also thankful for the privilege of seeing a new year.
It's happening to me for the first time, and I can say that the feeling is out of this world. Honestly, I feel so good. I feel so good being celebrated at the first day of the year. It's a great feeling.
God works with the way He wants to work, and it is something I didn't thought of. I was just coming to have my baby, and my message is, whenever you're pregnant, just be hopeful and also give God thanks for that privilege.
The First Lady's entourage went round the ward sharing gifts and goodwill to other patients in the ward, as well as give donations to the hospital. For those people, this year has started on a good note. Hopefully, the smiles and optimism will stay this way for the rest of the year. Dana Daniel Ziggy, Trust TV News.
Well, there you have it, the first baby of 2023 here in the FCT. We'll go on a quick breather now, and when we return, we'll be bringing you the front covers of national dailies. Stay with us.
In a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that. But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV, and now it is time to look at the front pages of today's newspapers. Of course, today being Monday, the 2nd of January 2023. And we start with Daily Trust. And on the front page of Daily Trust this morning, The lead story says Atiku Tinubu kick as Obasanjo backs Obi. And it has some more details. It is a worthless endorsement, says APC campaign. Only the endorsement of Nigerians matter to us, according to the PDP. And why I backed Obi against Atiku Tinubu, says ex-vice president. And of course, he also says Nigeria is hell on earth under Buhari. Details of that story can be read on page 5 of today's Daily Trust newspaper. And on the top of the page, the presidential candidate of APC, Tinubu, saying fuel subsidy favors the rich more than the poor. And that's details of that is on page 27. And social media users ensure CBN cash withdrawal limits will curb vote buying. Story on page 4. And just beside that, New Year, governors promise better deliveries, preach peace. Details of that is on page 26 and 27 of the paper this morning. And just below that, of course, we can see some colorful pictorials of children and other residents of the FCT celebrating the new year. Below that, uncertainty dogs PDP as presidential poll gathers steam. Details of that can be read on page 11 of today's paper. And then below that, 8 die, 22 injured in Ogun New Year road crashes. NNPC operatives destroy batch with stolen crude filling station in Delta. Details of that is on page 19. And lastly, felling of trees, refuse dumping, putting lives at risk in Kano, says government. And these are stories on the front page of Daily Trust this morning.
And for the Punch newspaper, we see a glaring headline which states presidential poll, Obasanjo endorses Obi as Atiku Tinubu camps protest. Obi ahead others in terms of knowledge, discipline, vitality, character. That's according to the ex-president. Ex-president says Nigeria became hell on earth under Buhari, scores APC low. Obasanjo endorsement worthless. He is a political paperweight. That's according to APC and the PDP. And just above the nameplate, we see NCDC emergency team meets over China COVID-19 surge. Beside that, we also see 6 million meters for deployment before June, according to the federal government. And also scarcity FG plant inspection of fuel stations tanks. And beside the nameplate, we see Jonathan Adeboye make 100 most reputable Africans list. And under the pictorials, we see motorist kills 5 dancers during party. Aja policemen caught drinking on duty. Abandon work. And finally on the Punch newspaper, Ogun couple killed after crossover service, son abducted.
Okay, up next is the Nation newspaper. And the major story on the front page of Nation newspaper this morning says Obasanjo under fire for endorsing LP's candidate Peter Obi. And of course, it has other details. APC, PDP, Akinyemi Bugaji knock ex-president. There's some quotes from there. He attempted to extend his tenure by changing the constitution. We had to stand up to him in that respect. So for me, I can't find his endorsement trustworthy, says Bugaji. And then you have had your term and let others get on. But for you to create problems for us and then come back and present yourself as problem solver, I find that difficult to swallow, says Akinyemi. And for the APC, the former president does not possess political goodwill or leverage anywhere to make anyone win councillorship election. And of course, according to the PDP, the former president's choice did not reflect the position of overwhelming majority of Nigerians. And on the top of the page, 18 die in New Year Day accidents. Next to that, what 2023 will bring by Adeboye Oyedepo Olukoya. And just beside that, Ganduje Akeredolu Bello drum up support for Tinubu. 2 feared killed in military checkpoint attack by government, and details on that is on page 3. Just below the masthead, let's ensure peaceful elections, governors tell Nigerians in New Year messages. And below that, Nigeria in top global chart as investors earn 4.45 trillion gains. Stock bullish in third consecutive year. Beside that is a pictorial of the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu alongside some other persons attending, performing the Umrah at the weekend. And Lula sworn in as Brazil president. Bolsonaro flees to US. And then at the bottom of the page, Auditor General report 17.877 million barrels of crude oil exported without records. And he accuses Accountant General of the Federation of paying 73 billion without approval. BU confirmed as co-marshal, and Kwara Revenue Agency saves 3.9 billion naira. Story on page 6. These are details of the front page stories of the Nation newspaper this morning.
And for this Nigeria, we see the banner headline which states, "Why I endorse Obi for president" by Obasanjo. He is a needle with thread attached to it from north, south, and may not get lost, according to the former president. Tinubu, we pity Labour Party candidate for relying on ex-president who can't win home state. His opinion doesn't reflect the views of Nigerians. That's according to the PDP. And beside the pictorial, we see 2023 polls. Your vote will count, Buhari reassures Nigerians. Ikpeazu shuts Apostolic Church over leadership crisis. And also climate change underrepresented in 2023 election campaigns, according to experts. And also we see Serap sues oil-producing states governors over failure to account for 625 billion naira derivation funds. And also beside the nameplate, we see tough year ahead for global economy, IMF boss warns. And that's it for this Nigeria this morning.
Okay, let's move now. Let's now move on to Leadership newspaper, where at the top of the page, the story says, "Wanted terror kingpin escapes as NAV kills 16 in Zamfara." Details of that is on page 12. And beside that, Elon Musk makes history as first to lose $200 billion. Story on page 19. And below that, below the masthead, NNPC Limited security agencies destroy barge filling station stolen crude. And just below that, New Year, political, religious leaders raise hope for better Nigeria. Details of that can be read on page 7. And the major headline says, "Don't be fooled again. Vote Obi. OBJ tells Nigerians." And other riders to that story says, "Leadership beyond a Milocan claim. Obasanjo has history of failed endorsement," says Tinubu. "It is ex-president's personal opinion," according to the PDP. And Atiku reaches out to 11 APC governors. These are details of the lead story on the front page. And then beside that, some other stories. 22 killed, many injured in Bauchi, Imo, Oyo auto crashes. And then government kills Sokoto APC ward chairman, elder brother. Kogi explosion, Ado Ibrahim insists on probe. And of course, it also has some pictures showing fun seekers playing at Magic Land Park in Abuja yesterday, to celebrate the new year. So these are some of the stories on the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning.
And starting from the very top of this day newspaper, we see resilient stock market gained 5.62 trillion naira in 2022, despite foreign direct investors exit. And below that, we see Bloomberg, how world's wealthiest billionaires lost $1.9 trillion in 2022. Also, Secondus, Wike lied, I didn't get any contract from Rivers government. PDP PCC, Tinubu desperate to ride on treachery to Aso Rock. Quite a number of riders. And also we see Obasanjo's endorsement of Obi stirs angry reactions from Tinubu Atiku. Former president says citizens have moved from frying pan to fire under Buhari, wants youth to retake country. Labour Party calls on IBB, Jonathan, others to also endorse their candidates. APC campaign, Obasanjo cannot win his polling unit, support for Obi worthless. PDP PCC, whether he likes it or not, Atiku will be president. Bold statement from the PDP there. And the pictorial there is captioned Tinubu in Mecca. Of course, we could see Tinubu and other members of the APC who were in Saudi Arabia for Lesser Hajj recently. And that's it for this day newspaper this morning.
Okay, next now take a look at national economy. The major story on national economy says how Nigeria's economy can wriggle through subsidy removal others in 2023. Government must invest in social infrastructure for subsidy removal to have limiting effect, according to experts, and then say inflation rates will drop if Naira is not devalued. Down the page, rising illicit trade, who is afraid of cargo tracking note, story on page 5. And where are the new Naira notes? That's a big question, and it is also on page 5. And so that's like details of the stories on the front page of National Economy this morning.
And for the Guardian newspaper, New Year messages, Nigerians too sophisticated to be tricked with religion, says Akeredolu. Serap sues Wike, Okowa, others over 625 billion naira legacies. Jonathan, Lawal, Douglas, others make 100 most reputable Africans list. NBA raises panel of over Rahim Braimo's deaths. For the banner headline, APC PDP denounce OBJ's letter endorsing OB. A couple of others. As letter says, LP candidate has edge over Tinubu, Atiku, others. APC PCC pities OB over worthless ratification. OBJ can't win polling unit ward in Abeokuta for OB. Former president merely expressing personal opinion, says the PDP. And below the belt, we see group calls for caution in choice of new Ohaneze President General. Knox as 12-year-old, 12.850 billion naira constitution review investment failed. And that's it for the Guardian newspaper this morning. We'll take a quick breather, and when we return, we'll have our reviewer in the studio to give us insight on the front pages. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that. Where you find that look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Thank you for staying with us. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV, and we are now moving to discussions on some of the major stories that made it into the front pages of the newspapers this morning. And we have in the studio Mukhtar Suleiman, a public affairs analyst, and Happy New Year, and good to have you.
Thank you. Welcome to the first Monday of the year.
First Monday of the year.
Yeah, and, it's been a good first Monday of the year, first Monday of the month.
Exactly.
We hope for the best.
Exactly.
First day of the week.
Wow. So, this morning, of course, all the papers are inundated with one major story, and that's expectedly. You know, when Obasanjo sneezes, the country catches cold, literally. Yeah, so the endorsement, and of course, you can see the action from almost everywhere. APC Tinubu kick as Obasanjo backs Obi. That's the front page of Daily Trust this morning. And then we have APC campaign saying that it is a worthless endorsement. PDP says that they don't care about an individual endorsement. It is rather that of the Nigerians, that which they claim to have. And Obasanjo, of course, marshaled out reasons why he said Obi is the best. And then, of course, he, as usual, gave some knocks to President Buhari. It is captured here as saying, him saying Nigeria is hell on earth under Buhari. So let's talk about the endorsement. Is this something surprising to you? Looking at, Obasanjo in 2019 actually backed Atiku.
Yes.
And then
2015 backed Buhari.
2015 he backed Buhari. And even this year, in August last year, when Tinubu led a large delegation of APC stalwarts to visit him, a lot of people felt he may come their way. So was this really, did you see this coming?
Honestly, I didn't see this coming, if I'm being honest. This was a sort of like a shock yesterday. But one of the most important things we need to note from the letter he wrote was, it's not really saying, I am fielding you a candidate. If we look at, and before I even continue speaking, I like doing this, of course, need a disclaimer. I'm not campaigning for anybody. I'm not supporting Obasanjo's letter. I'm just speaking to the content and context from within which I understand it. So I do not see him in any way trying to say, oh, this is your, he even said it outrightly. I'm not saying there's a messiah, but he pointed out reasons, cogent reasons, why he felt the concept of Emilokon should not be at the fore of our politics, and the idea of I have paid my dues should not be at the fore of our politics. It should be based on competencies, agility to perform, sound health and sound mind. So some of this, I think we need to look at it from the angle of Obasanjo does not care if Peter Obi loses or he wins at the end of the day. From what I understand from the letter, his own is just that I have told you that this is not the best time for us to vote these people into office. But if you go ahead and do that, I will be disappointed, but at the end of the day, it is still the voice of Nigerians, of course. But I think that's the content and context from within which his letter was coming from. And I think if we sit down properly and read that letter, I read it at length yesterday night, I read it again this morning. I had a very good feeling it was going to be a topic of conversation. So it's something that we really need to look inward and reflect. This is 2023, and the year we've been discussing this back to back since last year, and then we're here now. But, so what would be the matrix for us to decide who we're going to pick as the next president? So I think that's somewhat of what Obasanjo was trying to do. But then again, we'll see how it goes.
But it's like you are understating the import of that letter, especially Obasanjo's posture. If you read it, he's like, of course, taking a decision sort of, or strong recommendations to what you call, the youth, of course. He said, and having reviewed leadership performance and challenges of the country, and now saying this. And I noted something, I don't know if you do. He's saying, calling Peter Obi that a mentee, and of course he's saying that he's somebody you can squeeze his ears and all that if he goes wrong. Don't you think that this is Obasanjo, as some of his critics will say, the father figure always trying to come out and decide for the country?
I think we need to understand that politics has transcended the whole idea of people controlling territorial spaces with the evolution of how our electioneering process is now. So even if Obasanjo says, go forth and vote Peter Obi, does not necessarily mean that's going to translate in the polls. We've seen this play out severally. It sort of played out in 2019 when he endorsed Atiku, and still didn't translate to when people went to cast their franchise. So we need to be realistic with how things are. I'm not trying to underrate the potency of the letter he wrote and the weight and the command that Obasanjo has. Of course, he was our first democratically elected president after in 1999. So I'm not trying to underrate him in any way. But we also need to be realistic that those times where we say politicians control certain territorial votes, we are fast moving out of that. I don't see that playing out strongly. It might play out, but not as effectively as it has played out in the past elections. So we also need to look at that as a reality. And Obasanjo being a father figure and as a way of saying he's trying to impose Peter Obi so he can control the government, well, the man is old, he's frail himself. If Peter Obi wins, it will not be because Obasanjo endorsed him or Obasanjo did not endorse him. That's the way I'm going to look at it.
So you agree that it is worthless endorsement?
No.
Okay, so...
No, please don't. I'm not saying it's a worthless endorsement.
Okay.
When you say worthless endorsement, it makes it sound like...
Okay, it's something that will not have any impact.
Let me change. I think it will have limited impact to how the elections are going to turn out.
Okay, so I think the opposition, or rather the opposition and the ruling party also shares, this same sentiment of, in fact, they claim that his letter and his position does not hold any water.
Oh, sorry, before you go, okay, just the first part of what you've just stated. I'm not saying the reason I said if Peter Obi wins, it will not be a testament of what Obasanjo says. It's just for us to understand that Obasanjo does not necessarily control the whole of Nigeria. Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people, so he has his own small space, but there are pockets of other variables that are going to come together for whosoever it is that is going to win the general election. But you can go ahead, please.
Okay, so don't you think it's sort of a double standard now for the PDP and the APC? I mean, Allah Abdulaziz, we saw in 2019, the PDP didn't have a problem with Obasanjo, adopting or endorsing their candidates. And in 2015, the APC didn't have a problem, with the former president endorsing their candidates. But here we are, both parties saying, look, you can't even win your polling unit, and you're coming out to endorse somebody who obviously cannot even win his state, according to them. So don't you think it is double standard?
Yeah, just to even also add to that, and the Daily Trust story, which the details is on page 5, actually chronicles how all these candidates had visited Obasanjo. Atiku was there in February last year.
Exactly.
Tinubu was there on August 17 this year. Still last year. And of course, Peter Obi had been there like twice, according to the records. And even Konkoso was there on May 20 last year. So if you all went to this man and then you are now saying that the man has
open letter?
He's not. I'm not saying that. That's why I said I'm not going to underestimate the command that he has. But again, whosoever is going to emerge the winner of the 2023 election will not be solely because, that's the point I want to make, it will not be solely because Obasanjo endorsed said person. Because the honest truth of the matter is, if he had endorsed, say, any of the other candidates, there would have been backlash from LP, backlash from the other party that did not endorse. So it's normal. It's politics politicking. So I think it's the content of the letter spoke to the realities of what we have today in Nigeria and how pathetic things are, and why what we need to look out for has to transcend some of the mundane things that we've always looked out for as to how we pick who becomes the president or who becomes the senators and all of that. We need to look out for more sound minds. We need to look for somebody that is subject to be held accountable. We cannot have people who have propensity of being a dictator in a democracy. And that was one of the points he was trying to make about Peter Obi being a needle that can wave to any side of the district. Not because Peter Obi will be a pushover. Of course, we've read the record of how he was when he was the governor of Anambra State. So again, I am not campaigning for the man. I want to say this very, very outrightly. I'm not campaigning for the man, but I'm just trying to make it to the context and content of that letter that Obasanjo wrote.
Okay, before we leave this issue, let me read out these tweets, done yesterday by Festus Keyamo, one of the spokespersons of the Tinubu campaign, and he says, and I quote, quite within OBJ's right to endorse anyone, but bad for PDP in two ways. One, Atiku's former boss does not think he deserves to be president this time around. Two, the little support OBJ gave PDP in 2019 and they failed, he has taken that away to LP. No effect at all on on Tinubu's. So now, talking of PDP, do you agree with Kemo, or do you think that this will, because PDP has been struggling, even on the front page of Trust of the paper this morning, there's a story, actually an analysis on the crisis still rocking the party just less than 2 months to the election. How do you see PDP recovering from all these things?
Well, I said this last year when this whole brouhaha started with the G5 governors, even before they became G5, when it was just Wiki, that if this was not nipped in the bud as at that time, it's going to translate into a very big issue. But if they allow it to drag all the way to January 2023, and this is where we are now. They've allowed it to drag for as long as it is. We got news reports over the weekend that they were going to openly back Tinubu at some point, although Wiki doing one of his projects commissioning, of course, that's where we always hear his voice. He said that that was not true. And as of yesterday night, we had Festus Keyamo also come out to say the party is distancing themselves from the G5 governors as well. So PDP is in for it right now. Obasanjo, of course, has his own influence that he gave them in 2019, and that is still in pan out for them. I don't know what is going to happen and how it's going to actually play out, but it simply means that PDP is hanging very slim on a thread based on the mistakes that they made since from their primary elections. And I'm hoping that they can actually control or take care of it. Okay, so now to a similar matter, we're seeing in Rivers State where Governor Wike himself is also telling Rivers indigents not to vote for anybody who does not have the interest of the state at heart. So don't you think it's sort of a replication, basically him trying to say or portray himself as the only person who knows what's best for the state, like we see. I think Wike has never been a hypocrite about where he stands. Okay. He has been clear, he has been direct. He just needs to pussyfoot a little just so that it doesn't look like he's directly in contrast with the party. But we know that he's directly in contrast with the party. He has never been cowardly about it. So I think whatever it is that he says, of course we know who he's referring to, we know what he is referring to, we know what he's trying to control and all of that. So let's see how the politics just got very interesting. The only thing I just hope for is just that there should be a level playing field for everybody, because a healthy competition, as Obasanjo rightly stated in his letter, allows legitimacy for whoever it is that will win the general elections. Okay, so the president reassured Nigerians in his New Year address, that 2023 election is going to be credible. Of course, we know this is his final New Year address to Nigerians as president. And there were a couple of, points to note in the speech. So first, I would like to ask you, what do you make of the address? Well, the honest truth is sometimes I am forced to believe that the president has lost touch of the realities of Nigerians. The only thing I think is going to be, the only thing I think he has stand firm by and he has actually thrown out actions to back up his claim is the fact that he intends to live a free and fair election. First things first, signing the Electoral Act in 2022 was one of the boldest, biggest steps that he took, which was a good one. The new CBN policy is also going to come in to help us curb vote buying, to help us curb illicit financial flow during election financing and all of that. So we are hoping that these things are properly implemented and followed to the letter as to the way they've been written, whether it's the policy or the acts. So because obviously we've seen his countenance toward it. He has not gotten involved in the politics very openly. He's not even openly campaigning, despite being a party man. He has only attended one of the rallies, I think the one in Jos, some weeks ago. So he has said it, and I'm hoping that he can actually live up to it. He has not tried to influence the INEC chairman in any way. He has not even met with the INEC chairman. I don't think he has. If the man has spoken to the INEC chairman, to be a news report, and he still hasn't done so. He has distanced himself from INEC and allowed INEC to take full control of this entire process, which is actually a good thing.
Exactly, because I was going to ask, don't you think that is the approach that he is supposed to take? Because, of course, you know, he's an outgoing president, although many would say, you know, he basically has nothing to lose in the forthcoming election because he's not on the ballot. But, however, don't you think this is the best approach to take, you know, because he would not want to exert so much influence as past leaders have done?
We need to understand that beyond him being a leader of a country, he's also a party man. In politics, anywhere in the world, the sitting president campaigns for the next person coming in. That's the way party politics work. But he has this. Of course, we know that he has.
He's been following some of the campaign activities.
The only one he followed was he hasn't. He has only attended out of Jos,
right?
Yes, that's the only one he has attended physically.
The flag off.
Just the flag off, but he has not been anywhere else. He has distanced himself even from the party and has ensured that he has promised that he's going to, which is a good thing. I'm not a party man, of course, so I'm going to say that's a good thing for all of us because we know what it means to be a sitting president who is openly speaking up for a particular candidate. So that is going to carry up because he's a mandate that has been tested and trusted because it has delivered twice for him. So that means if he moves that mandate to anybody else specifically, even if it's not all of the mandate that will move with him, significant number is going to actually move to whoever it is that he endorses publicly, and he has refused to do that. So we need to actually understand that this man is also a party man, even as he is the president of the country.
Okay, let's now go to the front page of the Nation newspaper. There's a story saying the Auditor General report is reporting that 17.877 million barrels of crude oil were exported without records. You know, and the same story, from the same report, is also accusing the Accountant General of paying 73 billion naira without approval. When do you see an end to this issue? You know, this oil theft, you know, as the saying goes, it has gone to industrial scale. 17 million barrels is not.
You know what? I've seen a ship. I've been fortunate to see a ship firsthand that actually ships oil. I was at the Suez Canal, and a big ship that was shipping oil passed. So we're in the water, of course, and then we saw it going. You cannot tell me that 17 million barrels just went missing without us. A ship that can, if you put Daily Trust, the whole of this building, in a landscape, it's still not up to the size of a ship carrying oil.
Interesting.
It is not up to the size. Like with this high and the same length of being high, put it flat, it's still not up to that size of a ship carrying oil. So you cannot tell me that 17 million just goes missing without record. We didn't know where it passed. Like, I don't understand.
So you're saying it's probably a conspiracy?
Of course it is. We know these things. Of course it is a conspiracy. It doesn't make sense. I've always said this before, and I will reiterate. When things like this happen, if the government knows, it says a lot about their position in the country. If they do not know, it says a lot about their nonchalance about the situation of the country. It is really appalling. Things like this should not be news. It is pathetic that we have to discuss these kind of things. Like you're telling me 17 million barrels of oil. We are not stupid in the country, for the love of God.
Well, hopefully the authorities are also listening and would do something about it.
Hopefully.
However, this is the much we can take on the newspaper review this morning. Mukhtar Suleiman, public commentator, thank you so much for coming on the program, and also Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Indeed. So we'll take a pause for now, and we'll be coming back at the top of the hour where we'll be bringing you more on the morning show. Do stay.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Good morning, and this is Daybreak on Trust TV. Your favorite morning show, and today is Monday, the 2nd of January 2023, the first Monday of the year, and we hope you are enjoying the New Year's holiday, wherever you are. I am Abdulaziz.
And I'm Sagir Ibrahim. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Okay, on the hour, some of the headline on this hour: residents flee as security gunmen clash in Imo community.
We also have 3 kidnapped victims rescued by police on Warri Sapele Road in Delta State.
And then Adeleke suspends heads of agencies, orders probe.
For details now, residents of Ihube in Okigwe local government area of Imo State have deserted their community following continuous clashes between gunmen and security agents. Daily Trust reports that both the DSS and Army have been combing the forest of Ihube in search of a female Army officer who was kidnapped and stripped naked. The officer, a lieutenant, was seen in a viral video where she was dehumanized by her abductors. The officer is said to have recently passed out from the Defense Academy and was on the way to visit her grandmother before she was kidnapped by the gunmen. Earlier reports had it that she had been released, but the Army authorities denied it. The Police Public Relations Officer, CSP Mike Abatam, is yet to respond to inquiries.
Now, policemen in Delta State have rescued 3 kidnapped victims in Okuvo and Eborode communities along Warri Sapele Road. According to a statement from the state police spokesman, DSP Bright Edafe, the police were on patrol when they saw the kidnappers allegedly dragging the 3 victims into the bush. The police intervened and there was an exchange of gunfire, causing the kidnappers to abandon the victims and flee. The ages of the rescued kidnapped victims were given at 49, 54, and 40 years old. In a separate incident, the police also recovered a locally made gun that was found in a bag that fell from a tricycle driving against traffic in Warri. The tricycle was stopped by police operatives on stop and search duty at the front of Daudu Police Outpost in the Pesu community. The suspect in the tricycle escaped, but the handbag fell off the vehicle during the chase. When the bag was searched, the police found the locally made cut-to-size pistol.
Also, the Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has approved the immediate suspension of Dr. Niyu Gini, the Executive Secretary of Osun Health Insurance Agency, and Dr. Adebukola Olujide, head of the Primary Healthcare Development Board in the state. According to a statement by the governor's spokesperson, Olawale Rashid, the governor also directed the Public Procurement Agency and other relevant government agencies to immediately kick off the process to recover all outstanding tender fees on contract awards to which the state government is a party in the last 4 years. Adeleke also ordered a holistic investigation of the Public Procurement Agency to determine the extent of its culpability in the non-remittance of tender fees to the state treasury and contract manipulation in the last 4 years.
Now that's the headlines this hour, and then we now move to more packages. Nigerians have been called upon not to allow politicians to use them as political talks in the forthcoming general election. The former Director General of the National Orientation Agency, NOAA, Idi Farouk, gave the charge also charged the youth to exhibit high sense of responsibility, to be law-abiding and patriotic, especially as the polls comes closer. Trust TV's Kabir Lawal reports.
Former Director General of National Orientation Agency, Idi Farouk, said it is imperative to enlighten the public on the importance of observing their civic rights to make the country better, but cautioned Nigerians to be law-abiding.
INEC has come in with their own template for hitch-free. So the rest is now left with us, citizenry and politicians. They have told you, they have the beaver, they have come in with their you cannot snatch boxes and run away and all that. So now the rest is left in the hands of politicians, the electorate, and those that give INEC support, so to speak, on the day of election, or the days leading to election. Those are the security.
Former DG also warned against religion and ethnic politics which he said can further divide the country.
Basically, the candidates are on ground. All of us, we know them. I think 16 or something of them like that. And from amongst whom one, by the special will of Allah, will be the president. So what advice now? And they are selling themselves. So open your eyes. In the Nigerian language, shine your eyes and see who you vote for. Look at antecedents and see from amongst this lot who, in the individual's opinion, is fit to govern Nigeria.
A cross-section of youths have these to say.
I want to plead with you all to join hands with us, align forces with us, in enforcing the change we say we want, a positive change this time around. For why? The government people is straight. Most of you are over 50. What kind of Nigeria would you want 50, 70 years from now for your kid or for your grandkids? Is this the same thing we're going over and over again, fuel scarcity, unemployment?
What the government need to do, they don't usually seek the views of the youth. The bourgeoisie wanted to take over. They always want to take over. But this 2023 election, if they want to wipe away the unemployment, the insecurity and all that, they should allow the youth to vote for their leader.
So the only appeal I have for the government is that anybody that will take the seat, anybody that got destined to become the president of this country, to appease the insecurity and the job, and at least they should make provision for we the youths to have a say even in our own country here.
The youth believe that Nigeria is a democratic state. Therefore, authorities concerned must ensure credible, free and fair election come 2023. Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Quite an important call to the youths, especially ahead of the 2023 general election. Also, the family of Sanusi Bawa, an operative of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps in Katsina State, suspected to have been killed by his friend, are demanding for justice. His widow, Rukaya Sanusi, said since the killing of their breadwinner, life has never remained the same. The young children he left behind have been out of school since the event that led to the death of their father. Abdullahi Yamadi completes the story.
The family of the slain NSCDC officer said they are emotionally disturbed, exhausted and malnourished since the death of their breadwinner. Though they said they have submitted everything to God, they however want relevant authorities to ensure justice is served to whoever is found guilty of Rawayo's killing.
One thing I want everyone to understand is that it's not easy for a family to lose a breadwinner, especially at this critical time of economic hardship. Though the NSCDC commandant in Katsina has been supportive, and we appreciate him for being here for us, but we need nothing but justice to my slain husband.
The family, however, acknowledged the support and assistance of the state headquarters of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps for contributing towards the upkeep of the family. Police authorities in Katsina State also gave assurances that the matter has been investigated and that the principal suspect was charged to court.
An investigation started. He confessed. He said, actually, this is what happened. He was the one that poisoned this man, killed him, deposited his dead body inside a wall in a particular house. He led police team to the place. Okay. Our detectives went. The body was recovered inside that wall. The vehicle also it was recovered in the garage from his possession. Yes. Right now, he's in prison.
Human rights activists and other civil society organizations said they are monitoring events closely with a view to ensuring justice is served. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Now, Nigeria is a heterogeneous country which plays host to over 371 ethnic groups. Culture, tradition, and misconstructed oral history often prevent the different groups to intermarry. There are those that, however, defy cultural norms who believe that if inter-ethnic marriage are more widely practiced in the country, conflicts and biases will be reduced. Ado Musa takes a look at how a couple of different ethnic backgrounds got married in Jos. The report.
Nafiu Hamisu is a resident of Lainzana community of Josno local government area of the state and of a Hausa parentage who got married to Mansura Abdulaziz from Yoruba ethnic stock. The couple have been living peacefully for the past 7 years despite their cultural differences. However, the beginning of the journey was very difficult, especially during the courtship. The husband says it took a long time for his parents and his wife's folk to accept their marriage.
The challenges of differences of tribes. Maybe the challenges arises from the both families. For instance, my family, they don't want me to marry a different tribe of different ethnic groups because of different sharing of cultures. Likewise, from her own part, there was a little challenges.
The question often asked is how the couple have been able to overcome the challenges of cultural differences.
There is no much differences. All what we is just we understanding ourselves and tolerating one another. Because sometimes you have to let her practice her own culture, and at the same time you choose to a certain level you also do your own culture. And maybe in terms of some occasions like occasions periods, so both the two cultures we combine them together.
The wife, who says the marriage have been peaceful, believes that inter-ethnic marriages can unite the country.
Marrying you, it gives you the room to understand both each other. Islam does not reject that, so why are we to reject it? And it's a form of unity.
In contrast, a just legal practitioner asserts that unless ethno-religious differences were de-emphasized, inter-ethnic marriages will not strengthen national unity.
There's a need for a general reorientation among Nigerians to understand that this country belongs to all of us. And there's a need to de-emphasize tribalism in whatever we are doing in this country, or regionalism.
Although some groups are still resistant to inter-ethnic marriages due to cultural differences, there are those argue that understanding between couples should be the first priority before cultural values. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Thanks to Ado Musa for that very important package on the need to foster inter-ethnic diversity and marriages. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing, as you said, and as the couple also spoke, is really helpful in forging understanding because actually those cultural beliefs and practice of oh, I must marry from only my ethnic group and all that, actually is deepening our differences. And you know, we are one. We are in one country. We are neighbors. We are fellow citizens. You know, inter-ethnic marriages, as the wife says, will help you to understand the other person, to understand the other culture more, and then appreciate our common humanity. But then I don't know why a lot of people are not really comfortable of such.
This is especially true because, you know, even politicians when campaigning always talk about the need to foster unity, both, you know, on the religious and ethnic lines. But it's always really pathetic to see, you know, in reality, it's not really practiced.
Exactly.
You know, you hardly see somebody marrying outside his tribe and outside you know, his religion. So it's always
I think we pay lip service to most of these things. You know, it's not just, as you said, if they are saying foster unity, what, how? But I think it's important if we do something like this that will, in practical terms, you know, change perception of the other person.
That is true.
So I think this is an interesting one, and we hope to see more of that.
Yes.
And we think with this, we will take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll go into discussions on some interesting topics this morning. Do stay with us.
That's great.
If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV, and we are moving on now to discussion segment of the program. In his New Year message to Nigerians, President Muhammadu Buhari addressed several pressing national issues, including the upcoming 2023 general elections. As this will be his last year in office, Buhari emphasized the importance of a smooth transition of government and the responsibility of all Nigerians to ensure that the elections are peaceful and fair. He encouraged all citizens to participate in ensuring the elections, which will be conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, are free and fair by not engaging in any anti-state activities and other nefarious acts that may affect the polls. The president also urged all Nigerians to support the country's security forces and be on alert for anything suspicious in order to keep the country safe and peaceful. We are now joined by Mustafa Audu, a member of the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council. We also have in the studio Emmanuel Osemeka, a public affairs commentator. They will both be sharing with us their thoughts on the president's last New Year address to Nigerians and how his administration has fared. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the studio.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having us. Happy New Year. Great to be here.
So I assume that you must all have had or listened or read the president's speech. Let me start with you, Emmanuel Sebeka, as a public affairs commentator. What are your major takeaways? What do you think of this speech?
Thank you very much. I think basically, like the president clearly stated in the speech, that this is more like a valedictory speech for him. So he used the opportunity of the new year to, enumerate the achievements of his administration in the past 7.5 years, and also taking a cursory look at also some of the challenges his administration faced, some of the nuances that was expected, but unfortunately were not able to, achieve. But by and large, he clearly detailed a lot of institutional achievements that his administration was able to, battle with, achieve some, unable to achieve some in the area of insecurity, in the areas of infrastructural development, in the area of human capital development. But most of the challenges that he tried to push forward there were in areas of insecurity. And he was able to also to give some level of hope that his administration is making preparations for the incoming administration, without clearly stating whether it's going to be the APC administration, a new APC administration, but the president has been very emphatic that the next election is going to be free and fair on his own path. He's going to ensure that the election is free and fair. I think it's one of the legacies he wants to leave behind. He has not mixed words. At any opportunity the president gets, both at the international level or at the local level, he's been very emphatic in saying that the next election is going to be free, fair, and credible. And he has made every provision to INEC, and he hopes that Nigerians and politicians will allow that to happen.
Okay, so Mustafa, I want to ask you this. This headline is glaring across, all national dailies. So, of course, I'm going to ask you as a member of the APC, how do you respond to former President Obasanjo's endorsement of Peter Obi?
To be honest, first of all, good morning. Great to be here, and Happy New Year. To be honest, President Obasanjo is a statesman, a well-respected man. But his opinion, as we've seen, is only his opinion. President Muhammadu Buhari has ensured and guaranteed that there will be free, fair, and credible elections. So we've seen that sometimes he's fallible, like all human beings. No one is perfect. So some of the president's decisions over the years have been correct, while some have been false. And if you look at their history together between him and our own presidential candidate, while they were both in office, there was no synergy between the state government, Lagos State, and the federal government. So I'm not surprised by his summation or his opinion. It still remains his opinion. So we respect it, but we would appeal to the people. Those are the people who matter. And as we can see, the people really are not interested in what a lot of the leaders are saying. The people have what they feel and who they feel that they should vote for. And Mr. President will make this possible. So I truly believe that after all is said and done, the people will still vote for the APC.
Okay, but then again, in 2015, same former President Obasanjo had endorsed President Muhammadu Buhari. So, and the APC did not have a problem, with that.
Exactly, just like you're saying, or just like I've said, he has made some decisions that were correct and others that were not correct.
Okay,
so in 2015, it was correct. In 2019, he supported Atiku.
Okay.
And you saw that didn't go the way Nigerians wanted. Okay. So whenever he goes, his opinion goes away from the thoughts of Nigerians will show him that they believe in what they believe in.
Okay, so President Buhari has been quite emphatic on delivering a free and credible election to Nigerians. Now, quarters have said that his administration did not exactly fare well in the last 8 years. So would you say this is his parting gift to Nigerians?
To be honest, I'd say his administration, yes, like you said, did not do well in some areas, but in other areas, they did exceedingly well. So we have to judge it on a balanced scale rather than look at it from a negative perspective, which is the easiest thing to do. But he has faced some challenges, global challenges, I might add, with the war and the pandemic and its after effects. So you can see that all of these things have not just constrained his administration, but many administrations around the year. Last year in the UK was the year of 3 prime ministers and the death of a king, you know. So you can see that the world over, there have been challenges, but I think Nigerians we've tried, we've ridden this wave very well, and we're ready for prosperity. So I think if you look at the antecedents of all the people running, you see that amongst them, Lagos State is the most prosperous. Lagos State has shown that there has been a transition plan in place, and till now, some of the most amazing projects being executed by state governments are being done in Lagos State. So this is the legacy that President Muhammadu Buhari wants to leave behind. After fixing the electoral process and making sure we have free, fair, and credible elections, then a prosperous leader will come in who understands the economy and understands that Nigerians need quite a bit of money in their pockets. And that's what this new administration will
Okay, so Mr. Osevaka, do you share in the same thought line?
Not necessarily, because in credible election, we've had credible elections in the past. The 1993 presidential election was adjudged the freest and the fairest election so far in Nigeria, then followed by the 2015 election, which was also adjudged one of the freest and fairest and most credible elections we've had in Nigeria. Then 2019 took us back a little bit. If you look at the report of observers, you know, and monitors, it was clearly stated there that Nigeria had gone back from the gains of 2015. So I want to believe that the burden is on the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration to ensure that at least if you do not surpass the 2015 pass mark, at least make sure you hit that particular threshold. Because 2023 election is, some have described it as a make or mar election for Nigeria, because one, you have humongous debt burden in the country. You have a dead economy or a very weak economy. Our GDP has reduced drastically. At some point we had 500 plus billion economy. Today we have barely 400 billion economy. So if you take a look at some of the things that had happened pre-2015 and look at what has happened post-2015, you will see that somewhat Nigeria has really dwindled a bit. So yes, President Buhari has done his bit. His age, like you recall, when he came in 2015, he clearly stated that his age was going to, if he wished he was younger, that he would have probably done much better if he was younger. His age was a factor for him. His health challenges were factors for him. And of course, there are a lot of other challenges you can look at, the kitchen cabinet and all that. You have a lot of people who surround themselves, you know, who rally around power just for their own pecuniary gain and not necessarily for the gain of the entire populace. The president may personally have fantastic and good intentions for the country, but the managers of our economies, the managers of our resources, the managers of all the laudable projects that the president may come out with may be the bane of his administration. Take a look at the humongous amount that has been spent on the social investment program. If you do a simple evaluation, not audit, you'll be shocked at what has happened in that sector. The IDPs will tell you clearly how many people have received things from, you know, vis-a-vis the amount of monies that the government have expended. The 5,000 that is supposed to be good to poor people. If you take a cursory look at the implementation, you'll also be shocked at what you will see. So the president's age affected him because he could have been able to carry out more supervisory role, you know, with these agencies and probably do more of check and balance, which is the managers of different agencies. But by and large, I mean, he didn't do so badly. But I also believe that at this twilight, he's trying his best to redeem some of these poor analysis of him.
So, Mr. Osemeka, you have given this general overview of the administration.
Yes.
But then Obasanjo, in his letter, said that the president, having read the president's speech, because that's primarily the
Yes.
focus of discussion this morning.
Yes.
The president reeled out his own achievements in the areas of economy, despite the challenges he mentioned.
Absolutely.
Fighting corruption and insecurity.
Yes.
But then Obasanjo, in his letter, said that Nigeria is, we have been in hell on earth in the last 7 years, and he said it is like coming from the mountaintop to the valley. Do you think that is really fair, comparative with, if you weigh the two statements side by side?
Well, in this particular question you just posed is a very tricky one, because you're talking about octogenarians. And that's one. And number two, you're talking about retired generals. So I don't know what you want me to say. But I
you are safe. They are all born again Democrats. That's happily.
Yoruba people will say that and me, I want to be old. So the thing is this. I think the two gentlemen, they are entitled to their own opinions. President Obasanjo was President Buhari's boss in the military, and of course, as head of state, President Buhari was appointed by President Olusegun Obasanjo as the petroleum minister then, and of course, subsequently other positions. So somewhat they know themselves. When President Muhammad Buhari was going to run for the fourth time in 2015, for the first time, President Olusegun Obasanjo endorsed him and sort of campaigned for him, and he won. Now, there may be expectations, or there were expectations probably from the quarters, because they belong to the same constituency, which is the military. There may have been certain things that President Obasanjo probably felt the president should have done that he didn't probably do. And so, but I'm not going to go into analyzing what they said, because I would be shooting myself on the stomach, and I wouldn't want to do that. But the president is right to reel out his achievements. It's left for Nigerians to take a look at those claims, if they are correct or not so correct. President Obasanjo is right to reel out whatever he says. I've never been to hell before, so I don't know what it feels like. And I've not been to any mountaintop. So, but the fact remains that Nigeria retrogressed, and that retrogression came as a result of the two successive recessions. Of course, now coupled with COVID-19 and of course the global challenges. But I believe we would have fared much better, because the petroleum industry was not properly managed. The security arrangement of the monitoring of the pipelines and the rest of them, which was thrown away when President Buhari came on board, was a complete error. Because if that had not happened, we would not be where we are today. I mean, I couldn't imagine that for the first time in the history of the Federation, we were doing less than 1 million barrels. It didn't make sense. And until those exposés, we didn't even know that the same people who were producing were the same people who were conniving with others to tap and steal from us. And that's the reason why we didn't get the volume of funds that we ought to have gotten to, So imagine if we had 1.6 or 1.7 million consistently, they would have done much more. President Buhari did achieve quite some things, but some would ask you, at what cost? This administration has borrowed heavily. They've borrowed seriously. Yes, you can see some of the things, being achieved. I mean, you have Lagos to Ibadan railway. The railway stations are fantastic. They're beautiful. You can see the completion of the airports. Those are monies. So they borrowed money and they put it there. You can see Abuja, Kaduna is also there. And quite a few other things they've also achieved. The second Niger Bridge is completed, in my own view, because the motorists are now using it this period. So it's just a little bit of a tidy job that needs to be done. So if you give them knock, you should also let them know where they have also done reasonably well. Yes.
Well, okay, so Mustafa, now that Emmanuel was a bit diplomatic. You are the politician. I don't know, maybe you may not shy away from the question. I pose the same question to you. The account of his administration that President Buhari gave, is it, if you weigh it alongside the criticism by President Obasanjo, who said that we've moved from bottom, mountaintop to a valley, and we are living in hell on earth. What's your own take on that?
To be honest, just like he said, they both belong to the same school, both military and octogenarians. So the truth about it is that everybody is entitled to their own opinion. It is his opinion. If you look at the reality,
but opinions should also, especially that are specific. They need to really tally with reality somehow.
Absolutely. There's what you call constructive criticism, right? There's criticism in everything. Some a bit more constructive than others. So it's not just to throw away what he said. There are realities in what he has said. Things are very difficult. Things are challenging.
We are on hell on.
No, I wouldn't say hell on it, because I don't even know what hell is like, and I don't ever want to know. But I would say that things have been very difficult. But you see, we're only looking at the Nigerian perspective, but Nigeria is not independent of the world. So if you look at the global challenges, I've mentioned the UK, the US, anywhere you want to call it, they cannot afford to pay their bills right now. They are all involved in a war that they cannot afford. They are all coming off the backdrop of COVID-19 and its effects. Likewise, Nigeria, likewise our own peculiar situation with the secessionists, with the bandits, with the, so many things causing food insecurity, so we have faced challenges both within and without. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it. How have we survived? Have we, are we able to move on from here? Yes, we've put some basic foundation on ground. And the most important of these foundations is a clean, fair electoral process. Once you have something like that, then you can vote in leaders that are more competent, that care about the Nigerian people, care about the well-being of the people, rather than leaders being imposed and forced on us. Just like my brother here said, the elections in 2015 were slightly better than those of 2019. We have to be honest with ourselves if we want to move forward. But I have to say, I have been in the electioneering process since 2005, but to be honest, if you look at what happened in 2003, 2007, 2011, you'd know that you can't even call those elections. There were times that we were on the field, materials had not arrived, and they'd be on NTA declaring results, We've come a long, long, long way from that process, and things don't look that bleak anymore. With the advent of technology, servers, transmission of results, the coalition centers were the biggest issues in the electoral process. And the president has made sure with this new electoral act that has been amended and signed into law that those issues have now been addressed. So if you look at it holistically, Nigerians feel upbeat about what is coming. Never have we had 2, 3, 4 parties involved in an electoral mix before. However it turns out, you would know that the will of the people took 90% of that. And nothing is perfect, nothing is free. So you'd still have those independent elements, which I would call 10% of the people involved in politicking, that would still want to carry out these electoral fraud and criminalities. And we hope that the security agencies take care of those issues at the back end. But at the front end, I do believe that everybody is geared towards free, fair, and credible election. And all Nigerians are upbeat about it. So if you look at it from our perspective, I think that Mr. President, to his own capacity, has done the best that he could possibly do. He's never asked, I don't think anybody can come and say that they came to Mr. President to do a project or a program and he asked for something in return. It's impossible. This is not that precedent. So this process that has been put in place would honestly guarantee more credible people come into office. And those who are not so credible that make it into office know that they're only going to be there for one term.
Okay, so astronomical improvement in our electoral process. So I'm going to read out a paragraph from the president's valedictory speech to Nigerians. He said, the federal government and the Borno state government have started the journey of returning internally displaced persons to their ancestral homes earlier taken by the insurgents. Also, over 82,000 insurgents with their families have surrendered to the Nigerian military. A number of them are being processed by the Rehabilitation Operation Safe Corridor program. The fight against banditry, kidnapping, and other crimes in the northwest and other regions is gaining momentum and showing very clear results, one of which is the resumption of train service along the Kaduna to Abuja corridor. Mr. Osemeka, 82,000 insurgents and their families rehabilitated and reintegrated back into the Nigerian society. Does this call for concern?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember when the news broke some time back, I think consistently you had this surrendering, that was going on. And, I was in Borno from 2014 till 2020. My operation was around, I'm not a military person anyway.
Okay. It's important that you
my operation was within the Mandara belt. So from Pulka to Goza to Limankara, all the way to Madagali, even Michka. So those were the belt, and that's the hotbed, of the insurgency and all that. So to a very large extent, I understand this particular terrain and this particular issue. The truth is that one of the major challenges we're going to have going forward, we've already started having it, is that the community people are not yet ready for any supposed repentant Boko Haram person to come back into the society. I remember in 2017 in Goza, there were these 3 fellows that were arrested, and they were brought into the community. They supposedly repented, and they came back to plead. I remember a particular young lady. She cried, rolled on the floor, held the military and said, how can you say this type of thing? That this man raped me repeatedly. This man killed my mother, my father, and my 3 brothers in front of me.
You saw this?
Yes, live. And you could see that the military were handicapped because they would just simply obey instruction. So the truth is, this is one case in the midst of several. If you also listen to Professor Babagana's Zulum, he clearly made it very clear that it's not going to be an easy task for these repentant insurgency to go back, that even the community people are not receptive to them. So this is one of the major challenges you're going to also have going forward. But Operation Safe Corridor is a good initiative, but I do not clearly understand the mechanics and, of course, the workabilities of the rehabilitation and, of course, the reintegration of the repentant Boko Haram incident.
So what do you think we could have done with these people?
Wow, that's a huge security question you've asked. I'm not a security expert. I'm simply a development expert and a public affairs commentator. So I simply analyze things, right? Analyze things, then put it before professionals who are able to take a look and say, okay, these are the best strategies that we should go and we implement. So for me, I think that, yes, the carrot and stick approach is a fantastic approach that you can use, because I know that approach is somewhat what was done to the Niger Delta militant activities. That's what President Yar'Adua of blessed memory did. He was able to get the militants to come out of the creeks with the help of his then vice president, who later became president, Goodluck Jonathan. Went into the creeks and got the people out and said, look, you can't continue to do this. So I believe that's one of the things that was also done. Now, in this case, I don't know who were the people who went in to ask these guys to come out. But unfortunately, the difference between the Niger Delta issue and Boko Haram is that the Niger Delta militants were not killing their people. They were not raping their people. But in the case of Boko Haram, these were both mercenaries from Niger, Chad, and other places, and of course, the communal people who joined the Boko Haram insurgents to lay siege on their people and dealt with the people mercilessly. That's the difference. So it becomes pretty difficult to use the same approach. I feel that there should have been a different approach. I don't know that particular approach. I won't be able to tell you that approach. If I do, it may not even be the best to say on national television, because the truth is you must take cognizance of the people's psyche. Many people are still going through PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Even as one who lived in that region and left in 2020, I still suffer some level of post-traumatic stress disorder. If I'm seated here and there's a bang and I'm not conscious of it, I will fidget. That is what I still live with because of consistent barrage of bombing, explosions, and all kinds of ordinances that you hear. And having survived at least 16 suicide attacks. So you now talk about the people who live in perpetuity. So I believe that the government should have used a different approach. The same way people criticize what they claim that some repentant Boko Haram have been trained, retrained, rehabilitated, and they've joined the army. Yeah, I don't know if you heard.
No, but that one was being disclaimed. Was disclaimed by the army. But maybe let's pause you a bit, and I'll come to because we are running out of time already. Now, let's go into the president's body language vis-a-vis your own campaign. A lot of people say that the president is too laid back. In fact, that even gives room to insinuation. I know that twice the presidency came out to say no, Buhari is with APC candidate. Why that the back seat, and how is that affecting the campaign?
This is a double-edged sword. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So if he comes out to fully support our presidential candidate and carries him on his head going place to place, everybody would say the presidency is already leaning towards the APC and wants the APC to win and would, undermine.
Made him.
No, absolutely. That is why what he can do is ensure a free, fair, credible process. Okay. He believes that the APC have something to offer Nigerians.
So you think the two are not mutually inclusive? They can't.
Especially
you can have the election and because, like for example, President Obama.
Yes.
He went around
even the most developed
let me explain
in
to
the world always lean on incumbency power.
If you look at it, right, we are not where other countries are. Okay. So let's compare lemons to lemons, apples to apples. If you compare our nascent fourth democratic process, which is the Fourth Republic, to a 200-year-old democracy, then you're not being fair in your comparison. So ours is just still progressing. But Mr. President has done his best to make sure that our process is credible. Let Nigerians pick who they want. And that is what we ultimately want. We don't want a situation where things are forced on us, then there's no progress. So you can't have the two. You can't have the president in every meeting, every conversation about APC coming over and over again, and then, on the other hand, talk about the free, fair, credible process.
Mr. Emmanuel, I saw you nodding in disagreement.
No, I pity my brother Mustafa, because you see, the truth is, to defend APC is a very difficult task.
Okay.
Number one, the president is 80. So you don't expect him to actually crisscross. But I don't agree with him that the president does not want APC to win. The president wants APC to win.
Okay.
It is actually in the interest of the president and the presidency that APC wins. But the reality is that the APC has not done what they wanted to do. The achievement the APC reels out is not what they had anticipated. Because if you check critically, I mean, let's say, for example, I'm not trying to give a knock. Between 1960 to, okay, let me also say 1960, maybe 2005 to 2015, the total borrowing stood at about 11 trillion. Between 2015 and now, we've borrowed 30-something trillion. So the question is, show us. You can show us something, but what is the economic of scale of that volume of money and, you know, the others? Because like he also tried to, that's why I pitied him a bit when he tried to say, oh, you can't compare apple with lemon. But in terms of the challenges Nigeria is facing, you compared Nigeria with UK and the US and the rest of them. So that's why I said it's a Herculean task defending or trying to, you know, analyze positively some of the challenges they've had. One of the biggest error, in my personal view of APC, is the fact that you have a president, Buhari, who came into office at 73, almost 74. And he clearly stated that age will not help me to achieve this. And you saw it within almost 100 and something days. He was seriously ill. Now you have a candidate who is in the same cycle. And the challenges your candidate will face if Nigerians chooses him is going to be more. Because now you have banditry across, you have the issue of IPOB, you have kidnappings, you have the Boko Haram elements all over the place, then you have the major challenge of economy. And is it dwindling or non-existing revenue? So he has more task on his hands than the humongous debt. So that is where the challenge is. If they had a younger person, it may be a bit difficult. And two, the president may not be going, you know, cap in hand with the campaign because he probably doesn't want his failings to be attributed to the incoming administration of.
Well, that is also another issue, but maybe because of time. But I just wanted to, the issue of health, you know, the candidate is in this Daily Trust newspaper this morning. He was talking about how this job is about ideas and about capacity, not really about, of course, he said that he's healthy, but he's also talking about issues of ideas, which he said he has the best, according to him, comparative with other candidates. Yes. Do you think that,
you know, when I talk about health, I'm not talking about physicality alone. The President Buhari has reeled out some very fantastic ideas in his administration, but does he have the capacity? Was that capacity with him to supervise? Okay. Because he's not just throwing ideas into the air. The last time I was there when we were analyzing the newspapers, we talked about the issue of salary increase. They've done salary increase. The question is, where are you going to get the money to pay? And don't forget, with every increase, there is a resultant inflation. And you've not talked about relativity issue. And I said that President Buhari has been the luckiest president because Labour has been really nice with him. They've not gone on strike on these issues and all that. Unlike previous administrations where it was like every other month, Labour goes on strike. So you can be 90, have the best of ideas, but the truth is that at that age, there are, you know, things you cannot do. You can't stay so long. I mean, right now it's campaign. He can do certain things. But when you're president, oh my God, it's going to be completely.
Well, thank you very much, Emmanuel Asimeka, for this, you know, for your talks this morning, and Mustafa Audu, member of the Presidential Campaign Council of the APC, for joining us this morning. We hope to have you another time. Now we have to just draw the curtain because time is not on our side.
Thank you.
And Listeners, viewers, thank you very much for staying with us. Do stay with us tomorrow for another edition of Daybreak on Trust TV. You can also, check us up on our social media handles, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube, of course. I am Abdulaziz, wishing you a good and pleasant day.
And I'm Sagir Ibrahim saying thank you for watching and join us again.